Welcome to Grow For It. It's a podcast for small business owners, managers, and professionals. The goal is to give me a chance to work with the space between your ears, on your mindset, to help you focus on the things that really matter to your success. I want to enable you to concentrate on pursuing your vision, setting meaningful goals, and engaging in the day-to-day activities that will have the biggest impact. Thanks for joining me. Friends, welcome back to this episode. I'm very, very excited to have my good friend Rita Ernst back in the studio. She previously appeared on episode 22 back in January of 2021. Seems like a long time ago. Rita Ernst, let me tell you about her. She is by training, an industrial psychologist who pivoted and became a business coach, business consultant, and as of recently, she has now become an officially published author. And we're going to talk today about her new book, Show Up Positive. Rita, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Jim. I'm so excited to be with you today and to share Show Up Positive with your listeners.
It's so amazing because I remember we talked about this a year and a half ago. We actually, I think it was outside the show, we kind of talked about your plans to write this book. You're done with it. You've pushed it out there. It's live. And actually yesterday you had a book signing here in Louisville. Tell us about that.
I am riding such a high from that. I just feel so privileged at the love and respect that I have received locally. The local media has been kind to me. I've gotten coverage on several news stations and with Terry Miners on WHAS radio talk show. And so then to invite people to come to a book signing, and we sold out of all the
always a good thing.
All the
Always
book copies that we had last night, and I bought a special gold ink pen to sign books because gold is one of my brand colors. But gold is just fun.
Yep.
And so I just got to look people in the eye and thank them and write a little message, a personalized message to them in their book, and it was a delightful
And you had
evening.
70 people there for a book signing.
Yes. Isn't that incredible? But, I needed some help for some marketing stuff that I was working on around the book earlier. And I asked my marketing guy, because we were doing some B-roll filming, and I'm like, how many people do I need? And he said, we probably need to have about 20 people there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I will never get 20 people to show up at 4:30 in the afternoon. Everybody's working, they're busy. And I had more than 20 people
That's
show
amazing.
up for me. So it's true. You do eventually get back from the universe what you put out there.
A bunch of good karma.
And so it is a delightful thing to feel. But you know what was the most exciting thing about last night was it was the first time that I actually got to be face-to-face with people who had received their books in the mail and had started reading it. And so I had some beta readers who were friends of mine. I had a very diverse group who did early reading for me just to, just sanity check with me. Am I on the crazy train? Is anybody going to care about this book? Is this as good as it feels to me writing it? And luckily they all said, yes, keep going. It's brilliant. It's going to blow up. This is fantastic.
Well, truth be told, we're all on the crazy train. Now we actually have a book to take Will on. So,
hey,
congratulations.
that explains why you're on the crazy train a little bit.
Let's do this. Before we really do a deep dive today into the book itself, would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about you, a little bit about your business? I want them to kind of understand where you're coming from as far as a point of perspective, and then we'll jump back into the book.
Oh, perfect. That's a great idea. Yeah. So nice to meet all of you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. So I'm Rita Ernst, the owner of Ignite Your Extraordinary, which is a business consulting firm located in Louisville, Kentucky, although I work all over the nation and possibly world, but I haven't been chasing international business. I'm a mom of 2 girls, and I'm still got one foot firmly in the parenting and developing my children and one foot in my business. So I'm straddling those things at the moment and making sure that I give attention equally to both.
Hard to do sometimes.
Yes, it is, but it's rewarding to do both. And I have a background in organizational psychology, which basically is taking all of the research and science of psychology and applying it to the place where we actually spend the most of our waking hours and our interaction time with other adults, the workplace. And so we use things in organizational psychology, from social psychology, from biology, from motivation theory, performance theory. So it really brings together a lot of different areas of people's drivers, understanding people's drivers, and how do you craft workplaces and jobs so that people get all their personal needs met. Because biologically, we are hardwired with some specific needs. And when our work is not providing for those needs, we become very angry and resentful about that. And we either stick around and make everybody else angry and resentful with us, or we pick up our marbles and go home. So this has been my life's work. And I worked in corporations for the first 15 plus years of my career, which I learned a ton, did a lot of interesting things. And then when I decided I wanted more time with my family, I thought I was just taking a little short sabbatical, and then people just started reaching out to me and saying, hey, could you work with this person I know? Hey, this business needs help. And I was like, well, this is kind of nice. I kind of like this part-time gig. And that was when I decided to turn it into Ignite Your Extraordinary, my business.
And now that's become the full-time business, which is a great pivot story. I mean, I think a lot of us, whether it's through the COVID pandemic or whether it's just all sorts of things that happen in life, people tend to take pivots. And here's a prime example of how you've gone from, the psychology background, taking what you know into a totally new focus, a totally new role, and you're continuing to add value with that, which, again, has opened up some incredible doors like this book. So let's jump into this book again. And I want to talk, really, the pandemic was really kind of a launching point, I guess, for this book. You want to kind of walk us through that story?
Sure. I'll give you the brief version. You can read all about it. There's a preface for the book where I actually lay it out. And last night, one of the readers of the book that came to the book signing said to me, I don't read books like yours, and I didn't think I would be interested in your book at all, but I picked it up, and he said, you hooked me from the very beginning. You told the story in the preface so clearly of exactly what happened in 2020 and why the world, became the chaotic place that it was. And that really was the impetus, because there were businesses who didn't shutter their doors and go home and figure out just how to work remotely. There were many businesses who were essential that remained open. And at the time, we all were thinking, lucky them, lucky them, lucky them, and especially the business owners who have cash flow issues. But those people still had kids at home that had to have online schooling. They didn't have childcare. They were concerned about their parents coming into the home because they don't know what they're going to bring home from work, because there was so much that we didn't know. And so the stress for people who were essential workers was just off the charts crazy. And when we get emotionally exhausted, biology takes over. So think about that, Jim, and you tell the listeners, think about a time in your life when you just felt emotionally exhausted. What did you do?
Right. You either zone out or you rebel.
Exactly.
And we did not prep that.
No, we did not. And that's exactly what happens. And people withdraw, they withdraw into themselves, and they start to express their resentment and their anger. And there was so much that was outside of everyone's control. The rules were changing constantly. And we are kind of control freaks.
Yeah.
Human beings are kind of control freaks. And that's kind of the purpose of this book, is that you can still be a control freak. You just got to figure out the right angle on being your own control freak.
Well, and that's because this was a passion project originally. I mean, you talked to me a little bit about your core value, which is really around legacy.
Yes.
And so this is an opportunity. So connect those two dots for us real quickly.
So I did this exercise very early in my career. I was given a deck of 100 values cards, and we had to whittle it down to our top 3, which there was a whole process to get us there. But my number one card that struck me from the very start and never moved was legacy. But my legacy has never been wealth building. my legacy has always been relationship building. And the way that gets expressed is making sure that I leave people in a better place. And so I was working with these companies, with these employees who told me, I loved this company. I love my job. I love my coworkers. But we're not who we used to be, and this is miserable. And
that whole disengagement.
I don't know if I can keep doing this. I don't know if I want to keep doing this. I don't know if this is the right place for me anymore. And so we needed to get them reconnected to remembering how they used to be. And that was what they were longing for, they were longing for what they'd lost, but they had fallen into such a habit of complaining, of scorekeeping,
and that spreads like a cancer.
It does. It really does. And it's easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
And we talk about the psychology. There's actually true biological reasoning why you do that, why we do that as a human species. And it's just really important that we understand not to get mad at one another, not to who to blame is an irrelevant conversation, because everybody is just humaning through this time.
It's a great way to put it.
And it's not always pretty because we are imperfect as humans.
We're going to have those days.
But we do have this highly evolved brain at the front, right here behind our forehead, called the prefrontal cortex. And when we are able to utilize this highly evolved part of our brain, we can take control and have what we want. We can create what we want.
Well, as we discussed and prepared for this episode, I mean, you laid out just an array of tools and other accessories that really kind of are available as part of your overall consultancy, and some are directly related to the book. But what I love about this is you actually approach this in a different way. You approach this from the reader's perspective. Tell us about that.
I did. I'm a very avid reader, and I do a lot of audiobook listening. I read every genre that there is, including business books. And there were some things that I knew I wanted to do in how I designed the book to really serve the reader. And so there were some principles that I actually got wonderful feedback last night that I designed into the book. So one is that I wrote the book as if I were having a conversation with my reader personally. And I knew I hit the mark because my beta readers who knew me really well, my friend Rebecca said, I feel like you're sitting on my couch talking to me. And I was like, cha-ching. Yes, I know. I know I hit that one. I wanted to weave in stories of the work that I was doing because it is helpful to know that you're not alone and you can relate to ideas often easier in story format. The Bible's written that way for a reason, right? There's a long legacy in literature for why you do that. I put a too long didn't read at the end of every chapter that bullet points the key ideas of each chapter. And I encourage readers who are skimmers to just go to the TLDR, read those bullet points, and then if you're like, ooh, I want to know more about that, then you can read the chapter. Otherwise, you might not even need to read
like the cliff notes.
You might not even need to read the full chapter. And I didn't worry about length. I just worried about communicating what I wanted to share with readers. And I divided the book into two parts. So the first part of the book I call the manifesto because this book is a call to action. I am inviting you to be an agent of change in your workplace. I'm inviting you to be a part of the Show Up Positive movement, which is about creating what you want in your workplace, being the coworker you wish you had.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
If you look around and you say, we need more honesty in our workplace. People just aren't honest enough with one another. Okay, you lead the way. You start by showing what honesty looks like. Because when you be that, other people can see what it looks like.
You're modeling it. You're demonstrating. You're living it.
And then there are people who will say, hey, that's cool. I want that. If little tiny things, Jim, like one of the Show Up Positive words in the book is welcoming. Do you remember Cheers?
Oh, yeah.
What was the whole thing? What was the
guy walks in, everybody goes, Norm.
Norm?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's a welcoming, right? So Norm knew he was home when he was in the bar. When everybody gets all tensed up and things go really sideways at work, one of the first things that we fail to do is that little welcoming ritual.
Well, it's like that in a relationship. I mean, when the relationship is new and you get home, you run up and you hug or you kiss that special person, right? And when it's older and it's worn down and maybe it's stressed out, you walk in and turn on the TV, you do this, you check the refrigerator. Oh, hi, I'm home. And it gets like that. So yeah, that applies also to work and home life.
Well, and I will tattletale on my husband. My husband is horrible at little rituals like welcoming. Like if he gets up in the morning before I do, and I get up and I come in to get coffee, he doesn't say good morning to me. If I come home from work, he's sitting there working, reading a book or whatever. He doesn't say a word to me. He just keeps doing whatever he is doing. But I like welcoming rituals. So I had to decide way early on that I needed to let go of him being who I needed him to be. And if I liked welcoming rituals, I needed to lead. So if I say, good morning, honey, how are you this morning? Or what are you doing? He'll respond to me. If I lead, he will respond. But if I sit there and go, well, he just doesn't ever do his, he never talks to me in the morning. He's just horrible. And I make it all about what he's not doing. I'm giving him all the power. When I decided, you know what, I can say good morning. I'm doing it for me. I'm the one. He doesn't need it, but he'll play along with me. It's my need, not his. Right. And once I got that straight in my head, it wasn't a problem anymore.
Which is so funny because you early on you referred to our office kind of like our work family. And so it's transferable skills here that you're talking about.
There's a lot I talk about in the book, and the fact that, and it's core to how I practice my craft in organizational work, that people call me their therapist. They're like, oh, she's our business therapist. And the reason that they say that is because my philosophy is organizations are relationships.
Yeah.
And so are families. So all the craziness that can happen in family dynamics shows up in work dynamics too. And so let's just be honest about that. And then let's figure out how to deal with that. And so, we have very direct, when I'm working with folks, one of the reasons I think we get results from the first conversation is I don't pull any punches and I'm not there to judge. Just like when you go to a therapist isn't judging anything that comes out of your mouth. They're just getting you talking and dealing with your own stuff. It's the same approach that I use with my clients. I'm not there to judge. Listen, we are all imperfect, working on our more perfect selves. So I don't care that, you can recover from anything if you're willing to do the work.
Just got to do the work a little bit. And so, you talked about at its core, there are really 3 core ideas in this book, right?
Yes.
Let's hit on those real quickly.
So the first big idea is culture starts within you. Stop looking around at everybody else, which gets you to number 2. You have the agency. You have the capacity within you to be the coworker you wish you had. So again, don't give your power to Jim. Don't say, well, I'm not going to change anything till Jim changes something. That you just made Jim the master of your universe. Like nobody in their right mind would do that. So use your...
Well, hang on here.
Use your own agency to create what you want, what you need. You start this journey. You start this movement for you.
Exactly.
You do it for yourself. And then because you do it for yourself, you get to number 3. You become this beacon. You are this light that draws other people to it. And other people will say, you know what? I would rather hang out with Jim because I'm having more fun. I'm laughing more and things are more than to hang out with Rita, who's always complaining. Like I'm tired of listening to Rita complain. But, and does that mean that
let's call her Karen. Let's call her Karen.
Does that mean the gym is perfect all the time? No. Everybody gets to have a bad day.
Exactly.
Everybody gets to make mistakes. What is important is that you don't let your imperfections decide your possibilities. You just got to let it go.
That's a great core right there. That's a kernel right there to take with. But again, it's be that beacon that attracts other people, and suddenly that movement, if you will, begins. And that leads us really to what you're doing here with this book.
Yes, right now I am on a campaign of awareness because I am an independent author. I worked with an independent publisher. I didn't pitch this to Simon and Schuster or one of the big houses. So I don't have all their power behind me to get this book out and known. And so I'm depending on people like you, dear listener, who will, check out the book. I'm sorry you are not going to find it in your public library. I'm a huge user of the public library system. You're going to have to buy this book, but you're going to want to buy this book. And here's why. So I said there's two parts, and the first part is the call to action. The second part is called the Show Up Positive Sparks. And there are 50 words that are ways that you can show up positive in your workplace. And I wrote this book, and you're going to want this book on your shelf because the intention is this is a repository of ideas and inspiration that you're going to dip into over and over and over again. Are you having a really bad day? Grab the book, find a word. The word I just flipped to is purposeful. Okay, if I'm going to be purposeful, purposeful is a driver for me. Purposeful is good. So I'm going to get out of this bad day. I'm going to think about how I can, and then I'm going to read what's written here about ways to be purposeful. And then I'm going to make my game plan for, okay, what are 3 things I can do between now and the time I leave work that I can show up in a purposeful way that's going to feed my soul, that's going to fill my cup. So you're going to use it in times of crisis. You're going to hopefully make a commitment to every Sunday night or Monday morning saying, here's my word of the week, courteous.
Well, I like what you said there. It's not really a quick, this is just for the day. It's a habit, right? You're trying to form a habit. So like you said, word for the week, or maybe it's your word for the month.
Maybe your word for the month. Absolutely. This is about intentional habit development. So replacing the complaining, because all of us, trust me, all of us have this little hater voice in the back of our head that criticizes us. We criticize ourselves all the time and criticizes the world around us and finds things that we don't like that we could be complaining about. You are replacing that voice in your head with these words and these practices. And the more intentional you are about it, the easier it becomes. So you catch yourself and saying, well, I can make a snarky comment right here, or I could not. Because what's a snarky comment going to get me? And if it's going to get me more negativity. At the back of the book, we haven't talked about this, but this is one of my favorite quotes that I put at the back of the book. Misery loves company until people grow tired of being miserable. And there just comes a saturation point where I just cannot sit and listen to one more story of complaint. We all hit those points. Yep. We hit it. That's like what all the Thanksgiving movies are about, right?
Exactly.
in Family Dynamics, it's about, you're just replaying all the old tapes over and over, and people just sort of hit their breaking point. Guess what? A lot of work days can feel like the Thanksgiving weekend.
Yep.
With your family. And they will stay that way until you choose. But again, you can be the agent of change. You have all that capacity within you. I'm giving you a roadmap to get you started. But beyond the book, I'm offering workshops and speaking engagements. I have this phenomenal card deck that I absolutely love. This is card deck 1, so more to come, called Teams and Meetings. But it's 24 new words that are not in the book, but 24 of words that, based on my 30 years of experience working in corporate, are behaviors that help you have more effective teamwork and more effective meetings. When you're on a project team, when you're trying to make decisions, and Jim, you and I were talking about that, there are people that just are not your favorite people that you have to get in a room with and make decisions with sometimes.
I have a close friend and a mentor who used to tell me stories all the time. He had this one person that he referred to as his sandpaper person. This is the one person that just rubs him raw every time they interact. So yeah, we've all got that.
We've
person.
all got that person, and we have a history that we bring into the room with us over and over again. And you will just keep falling into the trap of allowing that to take over and derail or slow what you're trying to create unless you decide to get intentional and say, I'm going to change how I show up in this conversation with this person, because the faster we get this done, the less time I have to spend with them. Right. So it's a win-win for everybody. And so there's 24 cards and a workshop where I teach you to use the cards. And I actually am running a special right now because it's birthday month for the book and for Show Up Positive. So it's $199. It'll regularly be $249. But it's a virtual workshop that you attend with me, and I'm keeping it small groups of 6 people.
Right.
So you get a lot of personalized attention. I'm going to show you how to use the card deck and how to develop habits. And you guys can't see these, but Jim can see them. So just what's the first thing you notice about the card?
Let's see. It's an octagon. They're different colors, and it's got pictures.
Yeah. So it's the octagon shape, right? It's a honeycomb shape.
Yep.
So I picked the honeycomb. I paid extra money to develop honeycomb cards because I'm showing Jim, because you can build a little honeycomb.
They all fit together.
The idea is all of us have workspaces. You can pick 3 or 4 or 5 cards that are your inspiration cards you want to keep in front of you. Put them in your workplace. And they're these beautiful tropical colors, right?
Nice.
Does it make you think of the beach and the tropics?
I am now.
Right? There's this nice luscious lemon. There's like a mango
look,
color.
I'm going to get ice cream at lunch, so easy. No, but these are not just your typical icebreakers that we've all done before. We've all been to the meetings where, okay, let's do this, ask these 3 questions. This is mindset stuff. This is approach stuff. This is skill building. There's a lot more to it here.
Yes. So let's talk.
And that's why the workshop's there.
That's why the workshop there is to teach you how to use it. So I just grabbed one of the cards, and this card is inquiry. So inquiry is a really important communication skill for team building and for getting to agreement with other people. Because what happens in so many meetings and in so many teams is that people talk at one another to win the argument.
Exactly.
Inquiry is how you diffuse that behavior. So on one side of the card, I love my little caricatures. There's a little light bulb yanking on a little stick person. And this side of the card says, ask yourself. So these are mindset questions that you use to work on your own internal mindset before you ever step in the door of a meeting.
It's meeting prep.
And really getting yourself in the right headspace. So the questions on this card: am I feeling defensive? Before I ever walk in the door, am I going in ready to fight? Because if so, how do I back myself away from that? Because I'm going to get what I ask for. And if I respond with defensiveness, I'm going to get more defensiveness back.
Yep.
What question would be helpful right now? What themes or patterns are emerging for me? Do I fully understand other views? Am I willing to be wrong? Am I willing to let go of being right? So the other side has the 2 characters speaking to one another, and this is the say, ask side. So these are tips for when you're real time in the meeting. You keep this card in your hand or laying in front of you, so you can reference it. And when you're like, but my idea is better, instead of acting on my idea is better, you look down and you say, why is that important to you, Jim? Tell me more about why that's important to you. So I read the question, why is that important? I'm saying it to Jim. Right. I'm asking Jim to tell me more about his idea. And I'm getting invested in learning his idea. That's what inquiry is about. Inquiry is about the principle from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People: seek first to understand and then be understood. This is the practice card for that. So these are meant to be the little job aid, that little reminder that you need that says, hey, I'm working on how I show up so that I can be more effective and show other people ways to be more effective too. And then, of course, there are ways that you can actually introduce these into your teams at work and use them as a skilled method of engagement when you get new team members, when you hit rough times in your team, etc.
Right. And what I love about this book launch and all these other tools that you're bringing in this massive toolbox now is the fact that they're coming at them. You know, they're out there to help the people, help the organization move forward, especially in this post-pandemic world that we're trying to figure out what it's going to be like. But again, you bring some serious tools that are relatively easy to understand and absorb and put into practice. You know, and that's, again, you're distilling it down, and maybe that's your psychology background. You've got the background for this stuff, and you've put it into practice, and now you're developing tools to help people if they can't bring you in directly. But
and let me just add to that and say that I want your listeners to know this, that in my work, when I'm working inside an organization, I only take gigs when this is possible. We work at 3 levels. We work at the individual level, we work at the team or department level, and we work at the organizational level. So I've created this Show Up Positive toolbox with those same 3 levels in mind.
Perfect.
The book is an individual level guide with some tips for teams and organizations, but not like an organization leader couldn't necessarily just take this. It's not a DIY, or you probably need to hire me. The workshop that I'm doing with the cards is for teams and departments kinds of things. So, but again, you can as an individual buy the workshop, come to it, get the card deck, and then you can take the ideas and implement them in your team. Or you can invite me in. I'll give you special pricing. We'll do the whole thing with your team. And then I do consulting services at the organizational level. But it's important. And the reason why I operate in 90-day sprints, and the reason why I can get from 0 to 60 with my results in that 90-day sprint is because I am operating at all of those levels simultaneously. We're giving attention to all of those things. And because it is not one role's responsibility, it is not one individual or one level's responsibility. The way you make dramatic change that's sustainable is you've got to get everybody in the system on board and rowing the boat in the same direction. And that's what this is all about.
Literally all hands on deck.
Yes,
That's the way to go. Well, let me ask you this. Right now, I mean, you've got a lot of things going on. I'm amazed how you keep all this. You got the family commitments, obviously, as you told us about in the beginning of the episode. But you've got the Monday Minute, which is a live online. I see this on LinkedIn all the time, where you're on Monday mornings, you're talking about a certain word and you're giving some advice and getting people to focus on that. Similar, I guess, in nature to the cards, right? I mean, it's similar. Or?
It's probably more akin to what's in the book.
Perfect.
To be honest. Listen, people learn and like to receive information in lots of different ways. So before I ever wrote the book, I had this idea for these spark words, and I was going to call it a culture dictionary, but I wasn't sure if it was something people would respond to or not. And I already had an email list of people who were receiving a weekly blog article from me, which are very good articles, and you can still find them on my website. But I decided to start sending Show Up Positive sparks to them. So I told them, I'm transitioning. We're going to do this. I'm going to send you this idea once a week. And I started getting feedback from people like, oh my gosh, I love this. Oh, this is changing the way I am interacting with my family even. It's so they let me know I was onto something. And that email still exists. And that goes out every Monday. So in your inbox every Monday morning, usually before 9 a.m., you will have a Show Up Positive spark for the week idea that I'm giving you, and I'm explaining it just like I do in the book and giving you ideas about ways that you can implement it. But not everybody's a reader, and a lot of people loathe email. We've got
too much of it already.
Yeah, and so I didn't want to do a podcast. I just decided to start doing these lives because they end up being recordings that you can go back and listen to. So you can join me live, or you can hit it in replay. It's now out on my YouTube channel, which is Ignite Extraordinary. It is on my LinkedIn, which is on my personal page, Rita Ernst, Positivity Influencer. I'm easy to find because of the Positivity Influencer.
And that's ERNST.
ERNST. And then on my Facebook page, which is my business page, Ignite Extraordinary, is where you find it on Facebook. So it's usually about 8 minutes long. And it's meant to be very quick. It's called the Monday Minute for a reason. And it's just, again, to give a word and an idea and inspiration, because some people are more auditory processors, and some people can't auditory process at all, and they want it in writing. But it's ways of trying to connect and build a community of people who say, I'm on board. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this, Rita. Thank you. And so I want people, when I hear stories about people feeling defeated and exhausted and sad at the end of the workday, that makes me sad.
Yeah.
Work should be a place that fills your cup. Work should be a place that affirms who you are. Work should be a place where you bring part of your purpose. And it doesn't have to be all of your purpose, but part of your purpose into the world should be happening at work. And if that is not happening for you, I want to help you fix that, because everybody deserves to earn money doing something that is soul-filling for them.
That's a perfect way to kind of wrap up that talk. I love that right there. Everybody deserves that. And this is a way to go find that and ignite that for yourself.
Yes.
And ignite it throughout the organization. Let me ask you this. The Show Up Positive book, where can they find that?
The book is available pretty much through any retailer. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's at Amazon. You can get it at Walmart, Books A Million. So the distributor that I am using is a national and international distributor. I actually have my first sell in Canada to one of my LinkedIn contacts, and she got it from her independent bookstore. Our local independent bookstore, Carmichael's Bookstore, is a phenomenal bookstore and an amazing partner to me. And so if you want to support local and you don't know a local seller near you, there are links that you can find in my social media feed, or just look up Carmichael's Bookstore in Louisville, Kentucky. They will gladly get you a copy of the book.
That's outstanding. And so if someone wants to follow up with you, someone wants to learn more about the book, your workshops, they want to figure out how to contact you, how to connect with you on social media, where should they go?
So my website is igniteextraordinary.com, and that is really a one-stop place to find everything about me. All my social media links are there. You'll find those. There's an email address. There are contact forms on the website. There is a page specifically called Show Up Positive. There's a link to Barnes & Noble to order the book right there on the page. There are 4 keynote and conference-style talks and workshops that I offer. So one of the things to know about me is that I like customizing. So I really don't like cookie cutter. If I'm going to go to a conference and speak, or I'm going to come into your business and speak, I'm going to want to learn a few things about you and make sure that we really are tailoring it to speak to your audience. But I do offer speaking and workshops. I love learning workshops. Those are my favorite. So I have a variety of things, including a couple of different ones. And we do things in the Show Up Positive workshop, for example, where I will give signed copies of the book to everyone who attends. So that's part of the gifting that they get in the workshop. And then the card deck for teams is a public workshop. I will also do that as a private for companies that want to bring that in for their teams and for their leaders. But you can sign up for that independently, and that is at the bottom of the page. And again, right now it's on special for $199, and you will get the card deck. And if you want additional card decks, there's a place in the process where you can request additional card decks and a signed copy of the book. If you haven't gotten the book yet, you can order that and do it all in one place.
Well, that is the Show Up Positive book. Rita Ernst, I want to, first of all, you've been a good friend of mine for a number of years now. It's been a pleasure to watch you talk about this, conceptualize this, and literally launch and accelerate on all of this. I really, really have enjoyed watching your path. I wish you so much success in this.
Thank you.
You're having a huge impact. And you walked in today, and you were, like you said, you're on a buzz right now. You were just glowing. You were so excited about this, and you've earned it. So it's great to see a friend who's really living the dream here. So once again, I really, really appreciate your time. I know you got a lot of other stuff.
Come visit me at igniteextraordinary.com. I would love to hear from you. I would love to help you or somebody that you know. And can I just leave you with one final word? Because it is summertime, but Christmas will be here before you know it. And that person that sits at your Thanksgiving table that complains about their work over and over all weekend long, right here, show positive.
Here's
it's
the book.
The perfect stocking stuffer for the complainer who is bringing misery to your Thanksgiving table.
Exactly. That's not. Well
or
said.
maybe your
Well
4th
said.
of July picnic.
Hey,
Come to think about it.
Coming up really soon.
Coming up really soon.
Let's go buy now. No, that's fantastic. Friends, I hope you have found some nuggets in here, some great insights in this episode. It's one of the goals I have with this podcast is really trying to work on your mindset to help you be more effective in your role and help you accomplish those goals and focus on the things that are really most important to you. And I think sometimes mindset, obviously, being mindful of how you're approaching it and how you can kind of pick up the banner and begin to be that agent of change if that's, what you're called to do. I really, really hope you found a lot of value in today's episode. Once again, Rita, I want to just say thank you so much for coming in and spending some time with us. And at the same time, to my audience, I want to thank you for sticking around for the full episode with us. And I encourage you definitely go out there. I bought a book right now, and I can't wait to dig into it. I'm going to start actually this weekend. So, hey, as I always try to say at the end of these podcasts, when you're ready to take on some action in your small business, I'm Jim Ray. Let's grow for it.